Vigilants, welcome you all to an amazing episode on Vigilant Podcast. You know how we do here, we're always digging deep and bringing different perspective to matters. So really appreciate you all for always listening, and I must say I love you from here to the moon and back, like over and over again. That trip is not a one-time trip. I'm Olaito Baba today, and as you know, I'm the host on Vigilant Podcast, the host with the most vibe, as you all know. So, and you know what, we don't do this alone. Me, an amazing person with me in the studio, the energy goddess, Mama the Mama. Just last week, I bestowed upon her a new title, Iyaoba, which means queen in Edo language. Good afternoon, Precious. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great, and you?
Yeah, your voice is quite hyper this afternoon. Yeah, and I you know, there's something I'd like to tell you guys. So yeah, I want to tell you why Precious is so excited. So Precious just got back from Equatorial Guinea yesterday, and I'm sure she has a lot of tea to spill. But then to get the tea, you have to wait till we come back from our short break. Welcome back, Vigilants. So, Precious just promised that she's going to spill the tea in between the session, this episode. But that's to tell you to wait till she tells us how the experience was with Batasa. Yeah, the president. The president himself. So she's going to tell us everything she witnessed there, what happened during the meeting. Precious is definitely going to spill the tea. She's not going to keep anything, right?
I won't.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so last week we talked about Ondo State election, and then we also compared it with the US election. And, you know, this afternoon, just scrolling to the street of Instagram, I saw a post by Gislova where she compared the 2023 election with the 2024 US presidential election. And the total vote cast for 2023 election was 25 million, and the counting duration lasted for 5 days, while the 2024 US presidential election total vote cast was 155 million naira, and counting duration was for approximately 10 hours. Please, guys, what's going on right there? Because that caught me off guard.
Never expected.
I never expected it. What's going on? What's happening? Nigeria, we need to do better. How can we use 5 days to count votes? And we're talking about rigging of election. We're talking about corruption. This is where all of this thing stems from, because we give them more time to do all they have to do behind the scene, and then after the whole election we start shouting. Guys, we need to do more. So in today's episode, we're talking about understanding sexual violence and consent. So majority believes that when a lady tells you no, she might want more, but then I think we're forgetting the fact that no means no, and yes only means yes.
But you know, guys usually say when a lady say no, it means she's giving you a consent. It means yes.
Yeah, definitely. Because actually, I did a little bit of interview, and I'm going to be reading out some of this comment during the session. So, asking those people, and they were saying that, well, a lady can tell you no and she wants more. What about a lady that comes to visit you in your home, and then you touch her and she says, no, don't touch me? She definitely wants more. And, I was saying that this guy was saying a lady that comes to visit me definitely knows we're getting down. So regardless, she should be expecting that. It's a 50-50 thing. I might not decide I don't want to do that with you or not. And then I begin to wonder, can't friends visit each other?
It depends though.
Why must I have it at the back of my mind that as I'm coming to visit you, there is something that is going to happen?
Why will you be going to the opposite sex house? Like when you know that he lives alone. He's not your boyfriend. He's not your husband.
Precious, you can visit friends.
Okay, my dear, not in Nigeria.
You can. I think Precious actually supports these people's motion, but definitely I don't. I don't believe that if I visit you, I'm definitely expecting something more. Bro, I can visit you without wanting anything more. So you should respect that my no is no.
And whatever you see after that, don't go to police station to file any report.
All right. So on today's episode, like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about understanding consent and also sexual violence. But then we'll not be doing this alone. We have with us two amazing guests in the studio this afternoon, and they're going to be enlightening us. They're going to be talking about sexual violence and consent. And join me as I welcome the most amazing project manager, the founder of Busayo Ademuyiwa Foundation. Busayo Ademuyiwa, good afternoon, and how are you doing?
Hi, good afternoon, Precious. And I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Good to have you on the show. We're pleased to also have you on the show with us today. And also, we have a lawyer. You know, when we're talking about these things, we need to also look at it from the law perspective. What is really going on there? You know, when we talk about sexual violence, we know the situation of suing people to court after a rape case and all of that. But then we'd need someone to enlighten us more on that. And we have with us in the studio, Ogundadegbe Ademola LLB Law. Good afternoon, Demola. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing well. Bless God, so far so good. I'm doing well.
All right, good to know that. So today we're talking about understanding sexual violence and consent. Now, rape is a severe form of sexual violence involving a non-consensual sexual act forced upon the individual through coercion, threat, or physical force. Over to you, Busayo. What does sexual consent and boundaries mean to you?
Okay, thank you so much, Olaita. So when it comes to sexual consent and boundaries, it refers to, everyone involved in a sexual activity giving their consent, giving the go-ahead. And in breaking this down, consent has to do with giving permission or agreeing to engage in a sexual activity. And if someone maybe changes their mind at any point, then it should stop. Is you giving permission, understanding that your body belongs to you, and then you have the right to say yes or no. So sexual consent has to do with giving permission, and boundaries has to do with your limits or rules people set for themselves when it comes to physical touch or sexual activity. It is you respecting your boundary. It is you respecting someone's boundary, understanding and honoring what they are comfortable with.
All right, thank you very much. So, Demola, can you briefly tell us from the point of a lawyer and, you know, understanding the law, what do you think sexual consent and boundaries mean?
Busayo has rightly said sexual consent and boundaries. Okay, so understanding that now, first of all, there are several, laws that actually explain what consent is, So sexual consent under the Nigerian law, particular in relation to the criminal code, is defined by the principle that an individual must give voluntary, informed, and unequivocal consent to engage in sexual activity. So that means the person must voice it, and it's very strange that you can give a consent and you can still reject the consent in the act. So that's how funny consent is when it comes to sexual assault. So based on boundaries, when you're talking about sexual consent, you give that, okay, yes, you are willing to do this. On the same time, boundaries itself is when you create a particular space. You explain to persons that, okay, when it comes to this, you can't cross this. Like she said, touching, there's a way you actually must touch a lady, that you won't send the wrong signal. Obviously, you can touch a lady, but it depends on the way you are touching a lady, that you won't send the wrong signal. Okay. I think that's it for me.
All right. So moving on, let's look at this situation. Now, when a man and a woman are married, biblically, the Bible says they've become one. And then the man submits his body to his wife, while the woman also does the same. But then in a situation where the woman, probably she's tired, she doesn't want to do it, said no to her husband. But because the man does not want to cheat, even the Bible said that during a period of time, probably during a praying time, you can abstain from sin so that you can commit and be devoted. But after that time, immediately you should come together so that you will not fall into temptation. Now, so in that situation, and the woman says no, and the man does not want to fall into temptation, but still had his way regardless. She said no, but still had his way and had sex with her. Can we refer to that as rape, Demola?
Yes. Like I said, it's quite funny because even though the criminal code did not explain to us or give us anything regarding criminal or marital rape, rather, marital rape. I remember when I did criminal law in school, then my criminal law lecturer was very intense. I still remember the things he was teaching, and I miss him so much. So he explained some certain things. Even my logic lecturer, because I did logic 2 as a course, we came to an understanding that a woman can give consent. You understand?
Okay.
And along this line, withdraw the consent even in the act. It's actually rape. And even though you don't see it as rape, it can be seen as a sexual assault based on different states in Nigeria, because we don't really talk about marital rape. And based on the question you actually said, to the man's body, understandably, the Bible has stated something, but still the law still has things it guides and protects. So when a woman is not actually interested, based on the definition of consent, it has to be voluntary. It has to be voluntary. Definition of consent. It means it has to come from you. You are not doing it based on harm. You are not doing it based, you are being forced. So if it's not actually something that is voluntary, something that is not something that is obtained through force or threat or fraud, or unable to give consent due to factor of age or like that,
Okay.
If it's something like that, we all know that it's actually wrong. So in situations like that, when a woman is not willing, involved in sexual activities with her husband, make love, and the husband forces her, we can arrive at marital rape, even though it's not something that we hear often. Some states in Nigeria actually do it based on some certain conditions.
So Busayo, do you agree with him?
Okay, yes, thank you so much. Yes, I agree. And even when you read that part of the Bible, First Corinthians, where the Bible was telling us that the wife does not have authority over her body, the husband doesn't have authority over his body, the wife's body is for the husband's body is for the wife. The Bible also went further to tell us that they should not deprive each other except perhaps by consent. So yes, in summary, consent is very key, regardless of you guys being married. Because marriage involves a deep commitment to one. But again, consent, respect. Let me use the word respect, because when you respect somebody, then when someone says he or she is not ready, or he or she is not interested at the moment, then you have no choice than to respect. And then if you go against, be married though, even with the fact that you're married though, it is still that 4-letter word, rape. So yes, it is.
Thank you very much. But then, having an interview with some people, they said that in marriage, there's nothing called rape, but we can term it as abuse. Because the fact that we're married, we're legally married, it means that I am not raping you, but I can term it as abuse. Do you agree to this too?
That you can term it as
abuse. It's not as if I raped you, like I didn't force you or something, but you can call it an abuse because you were not pleased with it and I still had my way through with you. So it is not rape, it is abuse.
Regardless of how people try to rephrase it, an abuse is still an abuse. What does rape mean in the first place? What does an abuse mean in the first place? What does a violation mean in the first place? So regardless of how they see it, it's an abuse, it's a rape, it's a sexual assault. So yes, it is rape. Rape is rape, regardless of whatever word. It is rape.
All right.
It is rape.
Thank you very much.
Because again, I'm trying to justify. So I don't know if maybe you can, when the people you had conversation with said it's an abuse, I don't know what further explanation they gave you justify.
Okay, according to them, they said they already paid a dowry, and when we look at it traditionally, she's supposed to submit her body to them whenever and wherever they want it. So the fact that she doesn't even have the right to say no in the first place. So if they still had their way with her, then that means they can't say they raped her, because probably they believe that she doesn't need to consent to it. Now, when it comes to rape, we're talking about non-consensual, like she didn't consent to it, and probably by force, by threat, you had your way. But when it comes to abuse, it's something that only affects the person emotionally. So the person is just there, not enjoying what you're doing, really angry at you, really in pain, but you're still having your way through with the person. So that is their own explanation to this. So to them, rape is different from abuse when it comes to marriage. So they were just abusing her, they weren't raping her.
It is well with them. I'm actually not married. But of marriage. See, marriage is all about respect.
Okay.
I understand that you paid, but at least that is what marriage is about. That is what any relationship is about. It's about care, it's about respect, and it's about consent. Because, I'm not trying to justify anybody's reason for not satisfying their husband, but we have several reasons. Or maybe depression, maybe you need bed, maybe you're not even feeling too good at that moment. And I believe if your partner is a very sensible person, who understand. Yes.
All right.
So rape is rape, regardless.
Okay, Busayo. So, if I may ask, if your husband probably traveled for like a month or two, you guys have not seen each other for like 2-3 months, and probably he comes back and it's okay, my wife, I've missed you so much. So can I have you now or whatever? And you tell him, babe, I'm not ready, or whatever. And probably the man forcefully have his way with you. Will you still call that rape? Like, is the man like
at fault?
Will you blame the man at that point? Now is the man at fault? Because I traveled for like 2-3 months, and there's no way I will not miss my wife. I've not seen you for 2 months. I missed you. I want to hug you. I want to hold you. And I probably come to our house, and okay, babe, okay, I need to have you now. And your wife say no, and you forcefully have your way with her. Is that rape?
So in the first place, my husband is not going to do that, because I'm not going to marry an animal, because it's only.
Amen. I say amen to that.
Yeah. So yes, again, I hear you. I mean, he has been deprived of sex for about 2 months, and then you remember, it's also my duty as a wife to also please my husband. But again, this is when consideration comes in, and that's why God will help us not to make mistakes when it comes to marriage. Someone that is understandable and reasonable. I mean, I understand I am not feeling at that moment. It's not something I want to do with you. We can have that conversation, and I will make sure. I don't know. I'm not going to go into details about it, but yeah. But I have to prepare myself mentally and everything ahead of the next day. But that's why I say, knowing the person you marry is very, very important, because I'm very sure he knows that, oh, my girl is not like this. For her to say no today, that means she's not feeling it. She's not feeling up to it.
All
and
right.
regardless of whatever he's doing, you have to make sure I am fit enough for the next day.
All right. Thank you very much, Busayo. So this next question is for Ademola, and I'll need his answers to this. Now, let's talk about the myth when it comes to rape. Now, this myth, we have men do not get raped. We have alcohol can excuse rape. We have, she didn't push me, so she wanted it. We have, she dressed indecently. Isn't that what she's trying to tell me, that she wanted sex? Does all of these excuses, do you think it's enough reason to rape someone? It could. Now we have, like I said earlier, we also have the belief that men do not get raped. It's only women that get raped, which is quite far from the truth. So what can you say about all this myth?
Okay. This is a serious question. Okay, men do not get raped. I'll start from that. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but it's one of the things we actually discussed, in school then. And even though there's no law that backs up the aspect of men getting raped, we all know that men do get raped,
Okay.
And though it's not like when a woman gets raped, if you are to take numbers, we realize that the way women have been raped compared to that of men is nothing actually. Women will still beat that. But for me, a man can be raped, Even a man can be raped. No law in Nigeria backs up that. The law in Nigeria targeting rape, both the criminal code in section 357 and even also the penal code too, does not really say anything in that regard. They don't support that. Even the Violence Against People Prohibition Act too of 2015 does not really give us anything in regards to a man getting raped, but a man can be raped. So sexual assault, serious assault, and every other thing. Section 356 talks about serious assault, and there's assault occasioning harm. If the man can actually prove that when he was raped or stuff, there was harm, because before a man can be raped, man must have done something to him. In my own, it sounds strange. My logic lecturer, a woman, she'll be like, she sees it as strange, how you, but it's possible. Anything is possible. things are possible these days. So moving on to alcohol being an excuse when it comes to rape, of which you all know that when talking about alcohol, or I would rather just stay with intoxication. I won't just say alcohol, because if I say alcohol alone, many persons might just be happy that, okay, they can use drugs like Spanish fly and Didnt, many other things, to do that. So anyone who actually takes anything that makes him act or to behave in a manner you will not behave in normally. When you take alcohol, alcoholic substances, or things that can intoxicate you, all those drugs and every other thing, you realize that you tend to do things you not do normally, tend to act and misbehave. So, you blame issues on alcohol. Alcohol cannot be an excuse. So there are situations where alcohol is an excuse, but alcohol at the same time cannot actually be an excuse when it comes to the issue of rape. So Section 29 talks about intoxication and tells us that it cannot constitute a defense to any criminal charge, because rape is a criminal charge. But you realize that when you read further under Section 29 in the Criminal Code Act, they will tell you that it can be an excuse, it can be a defense, in the sense that when you realize that the state of intoxication was caused without his consent by a malicious or negligent act of another person. Well, we all know that any man that drinks, and it's not as if somebody forced him to drink, because majorly people that you blame it on the alcohol, they drink, and it's what is in their hearts, the alcohol will just amplify. That's basically what I would actually say. So it can be used as a defense in matters like that, because most persons who drink have actually planned it. There's something we call mens rea in criminal law. For you to prove a criminal offense, your act, there's malice aforethought. You have planned it in your heart. There are motives and every other thing. Your action is the artist rea, where you actually go further in exacting what you have actually thought in your heart. So it has been premeditated. It has been premeditated based on that before the action was actually carried out. Okay. Now, Section 357 of the Criminal Code, talking about rape, did not tell us whether when you have unlawful carnal knowledge of a woman that is naked, there is no defense to that. Oh, the view, some ladies don't know how to dress actually, and I'm sure you guys are doing well in that aspect. But some ladies don't know how to dress actually. Their dressing are very provocative, There are even airport dressing. When you go to the airport, you see strange dressings and certain kind of things. And some of them feel very comfortable with it. I've seen some slits that can make somebody lose its faith if you are not careful. There are strange things I've actually seen and beheld. But one thing is, she didn't fight back. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the law. It's not in the Criminal Code. It's not in the Penal Code. It's not in the Violence Against Prohibition Act. Whether took consent by force, you threaten, you intimidated her, to show you that even it's not only threat or force. When you intimidate, there's a way you can intimidate someone, you even have sex with the person. All those things that you psych the person and you obtain it by force or means by threat, or you even use fraudulent representation. Maybe you try to be her husband by impersonating her husband, stuff like that, and every other thing. Is guilty of rape. But forget she did fight back. Honestly, normally, rape has the psychological part, the mental part, even my criminal law lecturer wrote a book, Living with the Rapist in Mind. Imagine someone has raped you and you have to live with that. Here it's in mind that this kind of thing has happened to you and you can still go further in life. So whether she fought back or she did not fought back, or whether she did not move on this thing, nobody deserves to be raped. And that's not consent. You don't need to administer something in a drink, because there's some people that if they want to rape somebody, they don't even need to even force the person. All they do is they just administer some things in the drink and make the person feel tipsy and every other thing. And you know that when a woman is like that, she can't fight back. Definitely she can't fight back. So it's actually wrong, because raping someone is more mental. It affects the mental capacity of someone, where the person thinks, how the person can even pull that weight off and go for that.
So Busayo, can you quickly touch on it too? What do you think about it? Like alcohol should excuse rape. At least I was drunk. I wasn't in my normal
your right frame of mind.
Yeah, I wasn't conscious of what I did. So because of that, they shouldn't sue me. What do you think about that, Busayo?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Like, it seems the lawyer has said almost everything.
Okay.
I'm just going to that's where he said something about before you doing something, it's something that you would have planned, it's something that you would have thought of and everything. And, I've been seeing online that people say, people know what they are doing. And it's true, people know what they are doing. So I think when they do this, alcohol is just an excuse for them, for you to be able to do this. There are other things you can do when you're high. You can vomit and every other thing.
You can sleep.
But yes, you can sleep. Thank you. Then for you to now rape somebody else, I believe, for me, rape is an intentional act. That's the only way I see it. It's an intentional act. It's something that you must have planned. It's something that you must have thought of before then executing your plan. So yes, there is no excuse. So when it comes to this conversation, it's something I'm very, very bitter about. So I mean, there is no excuse about men. Men actually get raped, but we don't hear much from them. They don't speak about it, and it's because of the way the society is stigma and everything. I know a man, you should have fought back now. How are you a weak gender to do this, to do that to you? So men get raped. And I honestly hope they speak up. So they can also get help. And then you spoke about dressing. Fine. I know we have people that don't dress well, that dress innocently and everything. But all the same, it's still not an excuse for being raped. It is not. And then the last part about you not fighting back. So I think one thing we need to understand about rape is that it's about power and control, not even about whether the victim fought back or not. It's about, and many people don't fight back for different reasons. Or let's just bring it down to, why do you think, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You know, it's very easy for you to give advice, suggest ideas and everything. But when it comes to you, why do you think it's always difficult? It's after where, I should have done A, or I should have done B. That is how it is when it comes to situations like this. And we process things differently. Some people just do that. That's their way of just, it's not like they give consent, but that's just their way of coping. So I don't lose my life in the process. I don't know if, so like there are several reasons why people, because some of them fear for their life. Some of them are even confused. Some of them, they're even shocked. It's even after these people know, did this really happen to me? So we should understand that rape is about power, control, not about whether the person fought back or not. And there are several reasons. So it's so annoying when I hear situations or when I hear stories or when I hear people say, you should have punched him now, you should have done this now. No. Okay. So I mean, so in some men get raped, they should please speak up whenever it happens to them. They should just get a safe space, yes. And two, it's not, if you dress well or not dress well, it's not an excuse for you to rape somebody else. I mean, just consider what this person will go through, the aftermath of whatever your action has done to the person. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I think I'm going to add to the fact that when you talked about if she didn't push back, it doesn't mean she consented. And how you said people react to things differently. So one of the things that could happen during that time, it could be shock, fear, or the person is in a state of freezing, which is caused by trauma response. So at that point in time, no matter what you're doing, the person cannot move. So it's not because they consented, it's because emotionally and psychologically, they are far from where you are. So thank you very much for that answer. We really do appreciate it. I think Pressure has something for you.
Oh, yes. We all know that rape has a long-lasting impact on survivors, such as the PTSD, depression, and many other impacts. So, Ademola, how does Nigeria law address or support the mental health, like to the rape survivors? And what additional resources could be made available to aid in their recovery, like help them forget about it and move on? Because he said something about a rape victim writing a book. So for the person to write a book, I think probably that was the person just, you maybe use that right thing, like maybe the writing of books to move ahead or...
First of all, we all know that when it comes to the mental state of Nigerians generally, we don't take it serious because in Nigeria, we use everything to laugh. If something bad happens, you realize that some days somebody can just come up and create the content on that thing, forgetting the fact that that thing has actually affected someone and messed up with someone, the mental state of that person, the person not thinking well and every other thing. So the thing is, my lecturer wrote that book. I had to read the book. I had to apply it in the exam. I love criminal law so much. Apart from the book, we tend not to see persons who take these things serious. You understand? When you talk about issue of rape and when they observe you and they see that you are the kind that you used to dress well, they might want to tell you that it's because you did not dress well. Like that big woman stated there, Ms. Busayo, you need to understand that whether your lady dresses well or not, you don't have the right to rape her. Me mentioning the fact that I've seen several kinds of dressings did not give me the right to rape the person. Obviously, I'm not an advocate of indecent dressing, but at the same time, I won't do something just because of that. And left to me, in section 358 talks about punishment of rape, how the person is liable to imprisonment for life, with or without caning. In the violence against people prohibition act, so same thing. It's like 15 years. That's like life too. One thing I would say is none has actually brought anything to talk about the mental state yet. Now, you realize that normally people get depressed easily in Nigeria based on what is happening, and there is no one, most persons will not want to even go and reach out to a shrink or psychologist or someone they can talk to and every other thing. But one thing I feel should be done is it shows to be law reforms. One of the things I trust God to help me to do is how they can work on the criminal code, how they can amend it, make it much better in such a way that persons who are raped, like they do abroad, they have some places where people come, they speak about what they are going through. We have other persons who advocate, there are some persons, ladies who do things for ladies, even though some of them are being feministic about it and some things and every other thing. But we realize that those things can actually help. But we have seen, I've not heard any law till date. I've not seen any law till date. There's nothing really strong about it. It takes the grace of God. It takes the person to open up. It takes the person to relate well with persons, apart from treating the person in the hospital mentally and every other thing. And it takes the person alone to be able to even relate with the opposite sex again. Because those are the things we'll consider. Someone that has been raped might find it very difficult to even get married. And even though when the person gets married, I even find it very difficult to even engage in sexual relations with the husband, which is making love, because there's a difference between having sex and making love. There are two different things, actually.
I had no idea.
And actually, even rating. There are two different things, but it's for the married. So I'm not married, but those who are married, they know.
Okay.
So,
in
so
that
basically,
aspect
this
of
one
marriage, can I quickly ask you something? Now, we talked about rape and marriage the other time. So where does the right of a married woman stop in marriage and sex?
Okay, this is it. Apart from when the Bible said the body belongs to the husband and that, this and that, we need to understand that the right of a woman does not, when it comes to the issue of sex, consent, a woman is mutual consent, like it's mutual. Even though the man is in the mood, he wants to make love, he must consider the fact that his wife must be there, because that's why I said there's a difference between having sex and making love. If you want to make love with your wife and your wife is not ready and she allows you have just had sex, because it's only one person that is on the receiving end, the other person just wants to make you feel happy, and which is actually wrong. The other is making love between them. So the woman's right has not been truncated, it has not been stopped. The woman still has right to say no. Even me as a man, I have a wife, says no. No, it's no. The Lord will help us to handle the odds. I know she ran. So, but we just trust God. We just trust God in that aspect, that the right, even though it has not been stipulated in the law, and because you go married to a woman, you pay that bride price, does not give you the right not to consider her feelings and every other thing. That's what I would say.
All right.
The kind of country we are in today, Nigeria. So you made mention of some punishment for rapists. Can you say, do you really think that the law or the legal system we have in this country today, do they really adhere to, there's one thing to say something or read out something, there's another thing to do. Do they really punish these rapists? Like the part where you mentioned the life imprisonment or 5 years imprisonment punishment for rapists. Do they really do it here in Nigeria?
Okay, now, man, that's a serious question. Okay, at the same time, if I'm to look at it, stories of persons who have been raped and, except the person can prove it, the thing is, under the penal code in northern Nigeria, you see, it faces up to 14 years imprisonment, even death in case of a particular severe crime, just in case the victim dies. So in the northern part, they kill you. Even left to me, I prefer that when you rape somebody, you should die. They should just kill you. That's the thing. The fact that you can go ahead and mess up someone's life, because most persons who have been raped, they are literally dead like that. Some of them don't recover. They are literally dead. The person is just dead, mentally and every other time. It's just for the person to be dead, physically that remains. So when such things happen, but we hardly hear stories of persons who are being given life. Some persons will go to jail and spend the necessary thing. The thing about the law is an ass. This is the aspect of the law that, like, even though you rape somebody, the thing has to be proved in court that you actually raped someone. So if you even raped someone, if you have a lawyer, a very good lawyer who has used every reasonable means to convince the judge that the person was not raped and he proved it and every other thing, you realize that that person that even actually raped someone might even go scot-free.
All right.
So the thing is, it's a different thing to have a rape case. It's a different thing to prove it in court, go for a criminal action, and it's a different thing for them to have a good lawyer backed up with strong evidence to show that someone has been raped. But I believe if a lady has been raped, except the lady just wants to destroy a guy's life, I believe if someone has been raped, the person will not have any cause to lie about it, especially when the person speaks up. So that's my summation on that.
All right. So this question is for Busayo. Now, we talked about some of the myths when it comes to rape, surrounding rape, and we know that some of this stem from cultural and societal belief, like the saying men do not get raped. One, it is from the stigmatization, like, oh, if he talks about it, people will be like, can a woman rape you? Something where you're supposed to enjoy. I think I've been in a situation where they had that conversation before, where they were talking, and then the guy was like, that why would the guy say they rape him? You supposed to enjoy him, normal, and everything. Now, so some of these beliefs and, some of these myths, they all stem from this cultural belief and also societal belief. And many victims choose not to speak due to fear. Now, in a situation whereby a lady was even raped, people in the society will say, that's the lady, she was the one they raped. And some people will start telling their children, don't move with her, she has bad luck.
Yeah, she's not clean.
She's not clean. Someone that you're supposed to support. Now, in this case, becomes someone that people tend to point fingers at. It was because of the way she dressed. If she had dressed very well, they wouldn't have raped her. Oh, if she was not there, if she didn't go to that party, she wouldn't have gotten into that situation. Now, people start to overlook the evil act, but point hands at the victim in this situation. How can we create a supportive environment for survivors and, help them to share their stories so as to seek justice?
Okay, yes, thank you so much. So I think it starts with you and I. We having conversations with people and we educating them. One thing I like saying is that it's not even about me. It's the right thing. It's never the victim's fault. It is never the victim's fault. And then I think the first thing should be, like I said, it is us educating people about this. And one of the foundations I was volunteering with was a foundation against rape, whereby we go to schools. And so this is what we do. We go to primary schools because, catch them young, have these conversations with them. Because you'll be surprised that primary school people say have been raped, and most of them don't even tell adults, don't even tell anybody. They don't even have the conversation with anybody. So we go to schools, we talk to them about consent. Yes, we teach them about consent, that when your classmate tells you not to do this, then don't do this. When your classmate is not comfortable with the way you are playing with him, then respect people's no. So is you having this conversation, you teaching people what consent is, you even teaching people about that rape is never the victim's fault. You giving them a shoulder to cry on, to rant. Because it's very simple to say, oh, call Mirabello Foundation, oh, call Foundation A, call Foundation B. Because all these foundations are foundations that fight for. So imagine you being raped by someone you don't even know. Because you imagine someone being raped by someone you don't know.
Yeah.
One is you a safe space for the person. That's the first thing. You not blaming the person. Oh, it's your fault. You should not have gone out by this time. You should not have won this. The person doesn't need it. First is you being a safe space. You educating yourself. If you have siblings, you educating your siblings. You educating your parents. Because parents, they are the adults that are the ones that are always pointing fingers. Oh, that girl is a bad girl. She must have gone out late. She must have gone out to her friend's place. You're educating people around you, telling them that it's not the victim's fault. And also providing a safe space and them seeking help. See, even when they tell you that they don't, because I've had like a few people, and even when they tell you that I will be judged. See, I can fight. There are certain things I can fight for. If I take somebody somewhere and you want to start lambasting the person and telling the person that it's the person's fault, I will drag you down it. So let's have it with person, because this conversation is a very, very sensitive one. And I understand the stigma in this our country, in this world where we find ourselves. It's a lot. And the stigma, and the annoying part is, in as much as this rape of a thing is very painful, the stigma is even more painful because they see it as the person's fault. So what those people need is help, being a safe space for us, assuring them that it's not their fault, and then helping them to seek help. See, no matter how strong the person feels he or she is at the moment, it's going to tell in the future. So them seeking help is very important. Them speaking with a mental health person or the foundation or foundations. We have a few foundations that help rape victims, them speaking to them giving them the drugs they need and then the help they need, because it takes a toll on people, on this victim. It's those who are unable to survive the incident end up committing suicide. And then to avoid that, we have to educate people around us. We have to be a safe space for them, and we have to hold their hands no matter how long it will take, because it's not easy. They might not want to open up to somebody else immediately, but just assure them that you're with them whenever they feel comfortable. Yes, for me is those conversations in churches, in our mosques, in our schools, in our place of work, having these conversations. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
We know now that this world, our world now is a global village. We have the social media. So now, do you think, Busayo, do you think that social media has a negative or positive impact on rape, like on this act? Because I don't know if we can all remember the Timi Dakolo's wife story, where she came out later on to say that one pastor like that raped her. And I don't know if you remember that on social media, people were dragging her. Maybe people were saying that, okay, when it happened, why didn't she come out? Why just coming now? Some people said she was lying and all of that. And I don't know about her. I mean, I actually feel that she would have probably been regretting that. Why did she even come out to talk? Because now they're actually blaming her, the victim. So do you think social media has a negative or positive impact on this act, this evil act that's rape?
So I'll say both. But before I go ahead to answer this, you remember what you just said about, and it's similar to what I said to that, it takes people time. And then this has happened years, but she wasn't comfortable telling her story. See, when it comes to conversations or issues like this, person B doesn't have the right to tell the victim that this is the best time to tell your story. That's why I said people are different. The way we respond to issues like this are totally different. It takes people, like some people immediately to tell their story. Some people it takes them time. So please, let's just help them. Let's just hold their hands. What's it called in the process? And back to your question. So I said it has both positive and negative. And then should I start with the positive? Yes. So the positive is going to be, do you think social media has a positive impact? Yes, in terms of raising awareness. I mean, social media, I'm sure we all know that it's a very powerful tool. I mean, it can make or mass. It's a very, very powerful tool. I mean, social media can be used as a platform for survivors or even advocates to raise awareness about issues like this. So imagine, so now another thing why social media is good is if person A comes out to say, oh, I was raped by this person, it prevents person B from being raped by the same person. Because, one thing we need to know is that it's not only strangers that rape people. It's not only, because it's so sad that many of these cases even happen to people by people they know.
They know, yeah.
Parents, siblings,
Your
cousins,
uncles.
uncles,
Uncles, yeah.
aunties, children. So it's said, why allow somebody else to go through that same mistake when you can avoid it? Fine, it doesn't have to be social media alone, but since we're talking about social media, raising awareness is very good. And also on this raising awareness, imagine person A being, what's it called? Oh, I was just raped, but I'm seeking help. It helps the other person be to know that, oh, you are not alone, that I also face this and I'm really doing well and I'm seeking help. I mean, social media creates communities where all the survivors can find support and resources. And I tell people that if you know how to use the internet, if you know how to use social media, I mean, you'll be okay. Like, if you know how to use social media very well, because these are conversations people are having now, and there are people, there are organizations that help. So by using social media, you can get network, you can get people, organizations that can help you, that can provide the necessary support you need, and also accountability. I mean, it can be a very good tool for holding these even people and institutions accountable. I mean, there's one beautiful organization I like, online. I think it's Mirabel, I'm not sure. So I think it's Mirabel, um when they post that, oh, person A raped person B, because they posted it on their social media platform, they will not tell like the person's name. If it's not a public case, if it's a private case that, I mean, the public is not aware of, they'll put out the person, the even person, they'll put out the person's picture, the person's name and everything, and they'll be giving us updates that, oh, person did this, person this has been arrested and everything. So it's a form of accountability because they know people are interested in this case. I mean, there was a very important person on IG one time. He has a foundation, a cancer foundation, something. And only for us to know that because of how important it is in society and money, they wanted to like cover up the case. But because it was already on social media, I know Nigerians, we can be brutal sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
People ensured, people in the authority could not cover up the case till the man was arrested. So that's one good thing when it comes to social media, because it holds people accountable. It holds institutions also accountable. And then the negative part is victim blaming. I think one word we need to learn kindness. I mean, we really need to learn. We need to learn kindness. Because, when I hear people speak about this case, honestly, I feel like slapping. I just tell myself, thank you, you're not my family member. Because away. So the negative impact is victim blaming, like what you just said for Busola. Instead of you to emphasize it, you get people asking silly questions. Where were you at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you working alone? Let me go call the person, make it come with no. So the negative is victim blaming. That's one. Number two is spread of misinformation. I mean, social media can sometimes spread different misinformation about the sexual violence, consent. And some people still think, I'll still go back to this indecent dressing of a thing that, and she deserves it now because she dressed indecently. And she just waiting her eyes they look for, she don't find her. And negative is this trauma. For survivors, seeing stories or discussions about this. I mean, I know someone that, at first, when I did not know this person experienced this. But I just noticed that whenever we have conversations about this, the person is always feeling uncomfortable, ashamed this thing happened to the person. So you see, and that's another negative impact of social media, because when these victims, when they see story, it just triggers something. We human beings, we have different things that trigger us. So seeing different stories online about this also triggers them. So social media has both positive and negative. The negative, victim blaming, spread of misinformation, the trauma. And then the good part of social media is for raising awareness, finding a community of people like you with similar stories that are willing to help and hold your hand, and also for accountability. So yes, I would say social media has both the good part and then the bad part. Like, we know eating too much rice can do to us.
You asked me about what's the country doing about the mental state and every other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nigeria.
Okay, so even though I know that Nigeria does not really have time for our mental state, who mental this year? It's just the legal part. But based on resources available, there are NGOs and civil society organizations. So I just want to mention names of these ones, just in case there's anybody out there who is going through something like this.
Okay.
Or who has gone through, and the person is battling it seriously. So there is the Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, and there's the International Federation of Women Lawyers, and there's also the Nigerian Women's Trust Fund. Provides legal and psychological support for survivors of sexual violence. So some organizations also do shelter counseling services. So one thing I believe is, since these things are in motion, but we don't hear of them well. But another thing I believe is, for If, for instance, someone who has experienced rape, person can, come out and use that medium to make sure that no one goes through that problem, which I know is not easy, actually. There's just my own opinion based on that. So this is why I just wanted to just drop.
To just finish up with all of this, one thing about this myth is a lady can dress the way she wants to be dressed. Fine, I am not here promoting indecent dressing. Dress nice. You know how people dress modestly and still look good? If you know what that does, I really want people to also look into that. Instead of showing or revealing your body, you can wear something nice and modest and still give that look and still be beautiful. But then that does not also excuse the perpetrators also feeling like it was because she dressed indecently. And also know that, like our guest had said, that alcohol does not excuse rape. She didn't push back. It doesn't excuse rape. And for anyone who is going through pain, who is heavy-hearted and they can't even talk about this, I can only wish you well, love and light. And I can only hope you find the healing that you really do deserve. And that will be all on today's episode on understanding sexual violence and consent. And I would like to thank my amazing co-host in the studio, Precious. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, I'm actually glad to be here.
Yeah, and let me also thank our guests, Busayo and Ademola. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So much for having us. Sending so many hugs to all.
All right, thank you very much. And to Toby, our able producer in view. Thank you for staying with us in the studio. And until the next, do have a wonderful weekend.